Well, it would appear that Albertans are racing towards an independence referendum all across the province. Hundreds, sometimes even thousands of Albertans are turning up to wait in the cold 4 hours to sign a petition which will trigger an independence referendum. Now, the organizers of the petition signings have to collect 177,000 signatures within the 120-day time frame. The race is on. I think they're going to meet that goal. Over the weekend, I ran into Alberta author Nadine Wellwood, who is speaking at the town halls that accompany the petition signings. And I thought I would have her on the show to discuss what she's hearing from inside these independence town halls. Take a listen. So joining me now is my friend, Nadine Wellwood. She's the author of Alberta Rising, and she's been speaking at the independence signing events across the province. I actually ran into you the other day in Drayton Valley, which had an excellent turnout. And I wanted to talk to you about some of the questions that you're hearing from the people who are attending these independence signings. People have a lot of questions about the financial aspects of leaving, market uncertainty, interest rates, their pensions. And so I wanted to take some time to, you are at these things. Tell me, what are some of the questions that you're hearing from the public at these town halls?
Well, some of the questions around the economics are the easiest ones to answer because literally we have the frameworks already in place to deal with those. So the pension, we already have a framework where we can easily transition from a CPP to an Alberta pension plan. When you talk about currencies, well, I'm sure the US would allow us to temporarily, until we make a decision as to what currency we wish to use their currency. And from an Alberta standpoint, we align more closely with the United States. Most of our trade goes north-south with the United States. So there's those types of questions, but I think right now there's a large part of focus as well on our relationship with the United States. And there's big concerns around Mark Carney and what he has been doing and how he has been positioning Canada, and of course, deepening our cultural ties now with China, and our strategic partnerships, so what was once our greatest threat, just according to him a year ago, is now the United States as our greatest threat. So people are uncertain and unsure as to what's going on. And there is a big restructuring happening. And even though it's not quite out in the open yet, people are starting to see that. So, pensions and healthcare and all those things, I talk about that in my book as well. There's already solutions for that. And those are already within our jurisdiction. So for a lot of people now, I think, it's about looking past the economics and looking more into what kind of Alberta do we truly want? Do we want to be free, or do we want just another version of Canada?
I'm glad you brought up Mark Carney's ties, or I guess, well, his personal ties with China via Brookfield, but his efforts to now, I guess, re-engage with a country that meddled in the last 3 elections and kidnapped 2 Canadians. When I was in Drayton Valley, it felt like that was all people wanted to talk to me about. And they told me that hearing that will only hasten Alberta separation.
I agree. So the one thing that Mark Carney got right in his speech today at the World Economic Forum was that this is a rupture. This is not a transition. This is a rupture. And Canadians are going to have to make a decision as to which side they are going to align with. Do you want to align with a communist country, or do you want to align with the free world? So if you look at the national security strategy that the Americans have posted and put out there for you to read, it's 30 pages. I have been encouraging everybody to read this. Why? Because it's 30 pages and the world will make a lot more sense to you as to what Donald Trump is doing. And they are bringing back into the Monroe Doctrine and Western Hemisphere security. And most people don't even know where the Monroe Doctrine got its name. This is not new. It was the fifth president of the United States who ended his term in 1825, who implemented the Monroe Doctrine in 1823. And that is where the Western Hemisphere protection came in. And it wasn't necessarily then about China or about Russia. It was about protecting the United States from European influence. So you have to remember that the United States went to war with British imperialism,
Yeah.
right? Not Russia, not China, but the British imperialists. And so Canada, right, when it first initially started, wanted no part of liberty and freedom and independence. They sided with the British imperialist. And so, there is a very different mindset between East and West in Canada, because here in the West, we align more closely with the settler, pioneer, risk-taking, entrepreneurial spirit that you see in the United States.
Yeah, I think the cultural divide in this country is East-West. I mean, for us, we are culturally aligned no, to our neighbors to the south of us. Like, if I go into Montana versus going into Toronto, Toronto feels like a foreign place to me versus Sweetgrass. And I think you can really see it in the voting demographics of the boomers, Eastern boomers versus Western boomers. And I see it talking to them. There's that iconic screen capture from that video with the Eastern boomer giving the young people the finger. And they really did that in the last election. But when you go to these independence signing events, it's young people, young families, young men, young women, and grandparents saying, I may never fully see the benefit of an independent Alberta for myself in my life, but I must do this for my grandkids. And the Eastern boomer voting habits will sell out their grandkids as long as they get to keep their house that's worth $2 million that they bought for a penny whistle and a moon pie in 1973.
And a pension where they get $864 on average.
Right.
It's just, we have to start assessing where the risk lies. And I keep telling Albertans at these events, we need to look forward to the future. We can't look forward if we're driving the car with, in the rear view mirror. So, for us, we have to assess whether or not, our taking the risk is worth the reward, in which case I think it absolutely is. And for a lot of the younger generation, that has been the part, Sheila, and I know when we talked in Drayton Valley, I was so excited to share with you, because when you get moms showing up with baby in hand, pulling a stroller, and dad's over there dealing with another child, to come out and wait in a lineup for hours in some cases. It is not the number of people that are coming out for me that excites me. It's who is coming out that it truly, truly excites me.
Yeah, I don't know how many people I saw with a baby in a stroller, a baby in a car seat. Mom is there and dad is fresh off work in his coveralls. It's clear he didn't even go home. There were a dozen families like that in a packed house in Drayton Valley. And it makes you realize that there is a very strong cultural divide. And this independence movement has legs in a way that I think the last time around, when there was an independence-minded MLA elected in Olds a couple of decades ago, I think this is different. There's more momentum. And they realize that this is not going to be something driven by a political party. This is truly grassroots, of the people, for the people, by the people.
Absolutely. And this is where it's so important for them to get involved in the conversations, because these meetings, for example, that Bruce Party and I have just recently done, the message is slightly different than some of the other messaging that you're hearing. And people think, well, that's a bad thing because we're dividing the movement. I'm like, not at all. We're actually including more people into the conversation. We're educating people as to what all the options are, because the hard part comes after the yes referendum. Now we have to truly decide, what kind of Alberta do we want? Do we want a truly free Alberta where, as Bruce Party puts it, there's two things you don't want, right? Number one, you don't want people to tell you what to do. But here's the harder one. You don't want to tell people what to do. That's what it means to be free. And that's a much harder position to take. And so when we talk to people, they get very excited about the possibilities and the opportunities, to have truly one rule of law that applies to every citizen equally, to have a government that has no power except for what the people granted. Because right now we have to ask permission for everything, and what we're proposing is to use Bruce's language, flip the script, right? So the government has zero power. There is not, as he pointed out to me in my book, I have a Bill of Rights, because Nadine, you don't need a Bill of Rights if the government has no power. And he's
Right.
absolutely right.
Right. You need a restraining order against the government is what you need. Nadine, I could talk to you all day, and I'm sure I will talk to you very soon on the Town Hall Trail. But before I let you go, tell people how they can find out more about the town halls that are happening all across the province as volunteers work to reach that 177,000 signature benchmark to trigger a referendum on independence, and how they can get your book, which will help answer some of those financial questions that the other side doesn't want people to have answers to.
Well, the book is easy. You can purchase that on Amazon.ca, or you can contact me directly and I will be happy to send you a copy. As far as the events go, keep checking in with the Stay Free independence sort of movement, because they will list all the petition signing stations. And then, of course, for events, there's going to be a number of different events hosted by a number of different individuals. You will see them with the Stay Free, but you'll also see them with other events with other individuals. So Freedom Calendar Net, as well as another area that you can go and see who's doing what in the province. And just keep in line with what's going on in social media. Social media is usually pretty good at highlighting the events that are happening when and where. And of course, there's a big event coming up here at the BMO Center in Calgary. So that one will be huge, I believe. And if you've got the time to come out, I think it's just going to be a big celebration, in addition to a great opportunity to sign your petition.
Exactly. Yeah, it's stayfreealberta.com. People can get involved there. They can become a canvasser. They can find out about events in their area and see for themselves how and where to sign, how they can donate. These things don't happen for free. And even if you don't believe in independence, but you believe Albertans should be entitled to decide for themselves, that's a reason to sign that petition.
Absolutely. People want to talk about terms. Right now, we have no political leverage. There is no reason for Canada to even give us better terms.
Right.
The best way we can do that is get to yes on a referendum.
Yes. Nadine, thanks for coming on the show. I'll see you very soon.
Thank you. Bye, Sheila.
Will we stay? Will we go? Will we be an independent country or territory? Will we join the United States? For once, Albertans will be the ones deciding their future. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. It's my goal here at Rebel News to cover as many of these petition signing events as possible, but Alberta is a big, diverse place. And these petition signings are not in the big city centers always. They're in small towns, and I love to give voice to rural people just like me. So if you'd like to help keep us in the field, please go to rebelfieldreports.com.